crying. No. Go.
So we talked about last week we talked about open calls and whether we bother applying to them or whatever. And so I bring it up again because I got a nice fat or skinny email to say not accepted, not accepted, not accepted. And I've dealt with this 2 or 3 times in the last couple of months. So things that weren't accepted. And you know, part of me isn't surprised because in the first one I had submitted to quite a prestigious exhibition that happens every summer around where I live. And I didn't have the best work that I wanted to put in, but I thought, oh, I've got these 3 pieces and I'll submit them and whatever. So when I wasn't accepted, it wasn't heartbreaking, but I thought, why did I submit when I knew it wasn't my best work? And it was because I do it every year and I've always been accepted, but, so it was, oh, I've got to submit because that's what I do every year. So, it brings me to, why do I submit? Why do I put myself out there if it isn't the absolute best work that I do? And it was more like I felt I had to because I saw the call and I jumped in. It's a bit of fear of missing out, I guess. If I don't submit, then I'll be forgotten. Or
that's interesting that you'll be forgotten. What about this one right now? The one, this is not the one that you did that with. So the rejection you got right now, was that one you thought like that you were quite proud of your submission? Or
I felt it because it was a themed call for entry, and I felt my work fit the theme, but it was an organization I belong to as a member, and they put out calls for entry on a regular basis with different themes. So I thought my work fit, but they weren't big, big installation, big things. It was going to be an online exhibition, so they weren't, stupendous kind of things. My pieces were small and more intimate, and I thought I had a pretty good chance, but it happens. So, I keep trying, but at what point do you sort of say, oh, let's just not do this right now?
Is there a cost to these?
Yeah, there's always a cost, and it's usually $25, $35. And I do support these organizations, so I do appreciate the work they do. So it's not like something I saw on Instagram and thought, oh, I'll just apply for the sake of it. I don't generally do that. I answer calls that I feel a connection with.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You know what? I have never in my life submitted to an open call. And I know, Susan, I knew you had a lot. I'm not sure if you have, Chantel, but one time, like years ago, I was in a square foot show. I submitted to that, if that counts. But I always thought, although Susan, I think you might be did you go to art school, Susan? I can't remember.
I've done certificates in art. Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't go to art school, and I often wondered, because back in when I started all this, let's say 15 years ago, I have a lot of artist friends over the years that I gathered who were always doing open calls, and I never really understood it. And I just because it wasn't in my wheelhouse, I didn't get what this was. And I kind of wondered if it was more of if you went to art school, you were kind of more inclined to do that. I don't know. It just seems because I again, when I started, my goal, aside from making work, was to sell the work. And then I started asking people, they would tell me, oh, they're going to pick up their work from this open call. And it didn't make sense in my head that very rarely do things sell at these shows. Is that it? And I realized that I thought that was the reason for them, but apparently it's not. And I just didn't understand that because that wasn't part of my world. And actually on Art Juice a couple of weeks ago, this is what brought the open call up in my mind. They were talking about open calls. And Alice was saying that she had rarely sold a piece at an open call. So it made me wonder, like I think all along, as I say, I thought that was the idea of going into these things. And I was wrong about that. I think a lot of people, but then here's the next thing. What I kept hearing from everybody was, oh, it's good for your resume. But again, coming into this, I thought maybe that's an art world thing. I don't understand a resume in the art world because all I'm coming from is selling. And if you sell your work, I don't care about an artist's resume if I buy work from them. If I love their work and connect with their work, I don't care about their resume. So I think this is almost one of those cusp things of a changing world. Like I do appreciate if people want to build up their resume with these. I get that. I just don't actually understand it. Like I would like to understand it. I just don't understand it. So that's what made me see there are two very different art worlds. And I didn't know that when I came in. And perhaps that's because I didn't go to art school. Like I always just thought, oh, the idea was you want to sell your art. I didn't even realize until I went to the chateau last month that there are people that don't even have that in their minds. They really want to just create work to be seen in a context of something. So that this has all been interesting for me.
So I have a question. Open
Yeah.
call for you. Here we call it the appel de dossier. But here, when you say open call, is it when you think about open call, is it like a lot of painters together or artists together that you have a big place and like 20 artists are exhibiting their art. It's not like doing an exhibition, a solo exhibition. It's not the same thing.
No, I think they accept like one or two pieces. So they have a lot of artists with a few pieces. And of course, as you ladies know, I can't get my head around that simply because I need to control my entire surrounding. So when I see them just hung all over, like that's fine. It's just that's just an aside for, oh my God, what if I had a piece in there and my stuff would disappear amongst other pieces, right? Like some pieces are meant to stand out and things like that.
That's what I was thinking. I did some of those open call, and for me, my art is so soft. It doesn't like it doesn't go like crazy. It's more some intimate, more soft, like a little, not a lullaby, but a small jazz blues thing. And when my art is beside the other artwork, it kind of fades away. But if it's only my artworks, it's kind of like beautiful music together.
Yeah.
So
it tells the story.
So if I go to an I'm gonna choose more what's the venue, and if it's something soft, I will go. But if it's something very, very loud, I can't, because it's not, I'm just representing my art. It's not me, it's my art. And it doesn't show my art is not as it plays. That's how I think.
Yeah.
But maybe.
What is your thought sorry, go on, Susan.
No, go ahead, Suzanne.
What is your thought on what I mentioned about when I've said various artists have said to me, oh, it's good for your resume, this ethereal thing that I don't have any use for. explain that to, like, can anybody explain that to me? Aside from if you want, let's say, a museum show someday, I totally get that they are looking for stuff like that, the conceptual stuff and whatever. So I get that. But do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I
Do you have
do.
any thoughts on building a resume? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So for me, when I apply to galleries, then they want to see that you have been working consistently for a period of time, whether it's 5 years or 40 years. They want to see a consistency of exhibitions or awards. I have one that when I submit to a residency, they want to see that there's some professionalism in there with my work. I'm just going to shift because I'm in the sun now. Darn sun. There. Okay. So, yeah. So, depending on what you want it to do for you, to have that to particularly for galleries or museums, that's a pretty important thing to have.
Okay, so here I'm just throwing this out there. I'm just throwing this out there. Do we know though, like and I'm not talking about museums. I'm talking about galleries at this point. Galleries are not charitable organizations. Do you think in this day and age they care anymore? That you've got, like, they just want somebody whose work's going to sell. Do they not?
They probably want
Depends.
to be seen as some prestigious within the cadre of other galleries.
Okay.
They probably have an idea that they want to be seen as avant-garde or contemporary or showing the best of a particular location or particular theme. I mean, there must be some competition in amongst galleries to snag the newest or the best or
No, it
the
depends
best
on the
selling.
gallery too. There's some gallery that their clients don't mind, they don't care about the resume. But there are some galleries that if you don't have a good resume, even if your art would sell, they don't want it because their clients are more they collectors. And the collectors are, very picky. They want the best of the artists that they have recognition. They, they have prices, and So I remember it when I went to a gallery and I asked if they want to see my work, and they started to say, "We want to see your resume first." And my resume was what it was, and it was not what they wanted. But there's another gallery that was very happy with me, sold a lot of paintings, didn't care about the resume because her clients didn't care.
Yeah.
So it depends.
When was this?
Sorry?
When was this content? When was this? That the
Like
people
a
wanted
couple of years ago.
Yeah, like that. Perhaps what I'm getting stuck on is I'm never going to be in a gallery that's selling work for like $100,000. So that I get the collector thing. There are different kinds of galleries. I guess that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the ones that,
so
say,
if you know that your art, you have galleries that sell your art and it doesn't care about your resume, that's okay. But the way I think about the resume, the you say experience and resume. I've been in juries for exhibitions, solo exhibitions. So the way the jury worked, there was so many applications that we had to, when we had like there were 6 dossiers to retain, and it was about, I don't know, 20 that we everybody liked. So we had to choose. And then when we had to choose, we had to go into the resume. That's how it went, because the work was great, the idea was great, but we had to choose. So we went for resume at the end, because we know how to choose. And it was like we were colliding, oh, I like this one better. No, this one. So we went for the logical thing, and it was the resume.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's
really,
interesting.
that's interesting.
Yes.
Did looking at the resume make it the decisions like, oh yes, now we know this person is the right fit? Was it an obvious, or were you still working really,
Oh, they were
trying to,
all equal. They were all beautiful work.
Yeah.
And the idea was not to, sometimes when we have to choose, sometimes you have to choose an artist that does only recuperation. And sometimes one of the criteria is to take a new artist. So we go for that. So the resume is not important. And recuperation, well, we go with, and there's not a lot of those, so we go with the artists that are there. But for the rest of them, it's more, if they're all equal and they have all different way of expression, then the resume is gonna be the best way for us to choose.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
and being in the jury now, when I'm refused, when I have a rejection, but I'm more like a refused. I'm more calm about it, because I know the pain to be in a jury. And I would add that last week I went to a Chamber of Commerce, and I encountered a person that works in museum. And she said, "Oh, Chantal Dessert, your work is so beautiful. And how do you know my work?" So I said, "Oh, we want to talk about it. I saw in a resume." And, they talk about each other, they know you, even if you're not accepted, they know you, they understand. So it's more like you're known even if you're not accepted. And it's kind of like a publicity,
Yeah.
So if you go to an open call and you're not selected, you're viewed. They know you now.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
That's right.
See, I'm still looking at it from I think we're just coming at it from two different places. I'm looking at it from a gallery who has to pay their rent. And if they have a choice of an artist that displays everywhere, or they look online at one of them and they're on Instagram and sell all their work, if they have to pay their rent, they're like, I'm not talking about a show where you don't have to, it's not a profit center. I think I just am not, again, I think I'm not part of that world, that exhibition world where where the aim is not to make money, to pay the rent, where it's perhaps put on because they've gotten a grant from something, or more like a museum show, but not that, not that level. But I wonder if I'm just coming at it from a different.
But it always depends on what's your aim, what's the purpose,
And I only thought that their aim was to make money. I swear to God, I did. Except for a museum thing or something where there's a grant and we just wanted to display a beautiful, whatever. I just assume that people need to pay their rent and they're putting on a show to make money. So I've been, I think, schooled in that, like educated in that is not what everybody's trying to do. So so thank you. I get what you're saying.
There's an artist that asked me last week, what kind of website should I go to? WordPress or Squarespace? And ultimately, I said, it's not that important where you go. It's how you publicize, how people go to your website. It's not where your station your art is more like, and I think it's the same thing for the open calls or for the galleries. It's always the purpose and how you spread the word, so
Yeah.
your intention is more important, Suzanne.
We know what my intention is.
Well, and I answer open calls that I have a connection with, that I'm involved with, that I want to support.
That's good.
And
Yeah.
so, I see these ones that are online exhibitions, they're on Instagram, and great
Yeah.
call for entry and all of that stuff. And
Yeah.
you really have to be discerning to not throw your money to the wind and expect that there's going to be return for you personally, because I don't believe that's the case. When you support the local or the groups that you're passionate about, then it comes back to you in many, many different ways. So, and it's connection, it's relationships.
And sometimes
So,
open calls have prices at the end of the exhibition, and the prices are good. That's a good
yeah,
thing to have
yeah,
price to
yeah.
have a recognition. That's good.
Hmm.
So, but if it's not a good, it's not. It's more amateur than professional. Even if you have a prize, it's not recognized.
Yeah. They were talking on the podcast I was listening to about the whole reason why they got into this was because I don't know this gallery or this organization. Apparently it was all over Instagram, but I never saw it. It was quite a well-known one, I think, in England. And they do open calls all the time, and the fees have now become a profit center, which makes sense because they need to pay their rent.
Yes.
But I think the whole thing was they just did one, they collected all the money, and then they shut down the next week. And I think I don't really know a lot about it, but it was quite a thing. And because I think people felt like they did that knowing they weren't even going to put it on. So
Man,
I don't know
not
that, but it
good.
was
Oh.
it's a whole interesting thing now that's becoming a thing. There's actually a gallery that opened around here in the last, not around here, but in the Toronto area, the GTA, in the last couple of years. I feel like that's when I started seeing them. And I knew people that were represented by them. And now they seem to have really changed their model into purely an open call thing, where and you can't fault someone for that, because that's just I think it's a new business model almost for some galleries, some retail galleries, to that's how they make their money, is to put on these shows, these rolling shows, as opposed to representing people. You can't blame them. Like, they're kind of moving with the times, trying to
Yeah,
figure out what works.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's not quite the same
Sometimes they
thing, but
rent a wall, they rent
Hmm.
space.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's a post-pandemic
yeah,
response from
Mm,
where
yeah,
everything went online for a period of time,
mm.
and so now things have changed as we have opened up, and they realize there's many, many different ways of
yeah.
just exhibiting artists and relationships.
Yeah.
I have a spider crawling across my computer screen because I keep
So is that your way of
staring
telling
at
us we're done?
Thanks
I
for the
think
sharing.
yeah, I think we'll stop.
Oh my God.
Oh, so we'll
Um,
stop for now.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay.